channel. It's Darjay Naylene. If you are new, I am Darjay. This is my channel, and yeah, thanks for tuning in. Today's video is gonna be a little different than the videos that I usually do. I know I've been gone for quite a while, and I'll explain why. I end up doing a video and then I won't put another one out for like another few months or so. I know it's bad. I have a bad habit of just not keeping up with YouTube because just life catches up and things happen, and it kind of discourages me from coming on here. But I'm trying my best to start to be consistent with making videos and making content that you guys might like to see. So if you notice by the title now, you probably know why I'm here today to talk to you guys. Man, this just feels so weird, like actually talking about it. I feel like this is something that's not really talked about because it's like taboo per se, because it happens to a lot of women, and it is something that happens more often than you think, and it happened to me. So today I'm going to be talking about my miscarriage. You want to go ahead and watch. Just stay tuned. If this video is going to trigger you in any way, go ahead and click off because I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable. But if you want to just hear my story and my experience on my miscarriage, go ahead and stay tuned. Last year in 2019, I found out that I was pregnant. I found out probably around, I'm going to give you guys like a time lapse of when I found out and how long everything kind of took. I probably found out like in December, the middle of December or so. And I kind of knew that I was pregnant because it would just be like little things here and there. Like I was like ridiculously tired all the time. Like I would take a nap before work, after work. I would sleep longer than usual. Honestly, I didn't get too much nausea because I'm already like a nauseous person as it is. So yeah, that really didn't faze me. When I was at work, I would get like heat flash, and eventually I was like, you know what, let me go ahead and take a pregnancy test. So you guys, if you know me, you know I'm like freaking cheap. So I went to the 99-cent store and I got me a pregnancy test just to see, because if I wasn't pregnant, I would have been mad if I spent like over $20 on a pregnancy test just for it to come back negative. So I was like, I'll just take this 99-cent store one. So I ended up taking the test, and a very faint line came back for it being positive. So me and my husband were kind of looking at the test, and we're just like, is it positive, or is it like a false positive? Like we really didn't know. So he went out and bought me one of the more expensive tests. It came back with like a faint line. And so we're like, okay, we don't really know if I'm pregnant or not, so let's go ahead and try in a few more days. A few days later, I took another test in the morning, and literally like the line was like completely there. It was positive as hell. So I was like, okay, I'm legit pregnant. I was super excited about being pregnant. Like it was something that I had been wanting to do for a while. I had been wanting to have kids and start our family. So you know, it was good news for us. We ended up just telling like our immediate family about the pregnancy, because I kind of wanted to wait till I was out of the first trimester before I was posting stuff and letting people know that I was pregnant. The only people that I really told was my family and then my work, because just in case anything happens, I needed my job to know that I was pregnant. As like time goes on, I guess you could say like I was having normal symptoms of being pregnant. Like I was just constantly tired. I had nausea here and there, but it really wasn't too much at all. And you know, it was just, I felt pregnant. And so I started to get, you know, a little pouch, and things are going great. Everything's going good. And I go to the doctor to confirm the pregnancy, and they had me take the exact same test from the 99-cent store. So if you're wondering about getting a test from 99-cent store, just do it, because it's the same thing. Don't waste your money. Like the tests are all the same. She had me take a test, urine sample, and it came back positive. So they confirmed it at the doctor's office, and then I made my appointments from there on out to proceed with everything. So the first appointment I had was a phone interview. I don't know if every doctor does that, but my doctor did. And the phone interview just basically, I guess what they're doing now in some cases is just checking people's like mental health to see if you actually wanted to have a baby, if you wanted to get pregnant, if this is something that basically you want it to happen, or if you're upset that it did, whatever. So that was like my first like appointment, was over the phone, and I like just talked to the doctor about like the next steps and everything. This is when it gets kind of different. So I had ended up getting a tracker, like the tracker app for pregnancy. I got What to Expect. I'm pretty sure I know when I conceived, like the exact date. So I put my time from there and then the time from your last period. And so it gave me like how far along I was. When I went to the doctor, I was supposed to be 8 weeks. So that's when I first saw the doctor, was at 8 weeks. And when I went there, you know, like it's hard like not to be excited and kind of just like be like have a poker face, because if you want to have a baby, you know, you're going to be excited once you see the pregnancy tests that you take on your own. And I was excited. I'm like excited to see like maybe a heartbeat or see the baby progressing and everything. But my appointment went nothing like that. Me and my husband ended up going to the appointment, and all they had me do there was take another urine sample, and they check your blood pressure and everything, do all the routine stuff that you do when you go to the doctor. And so then when I got into the actual doctor's office, I had to do a vaginal ultrasound. And if you don't know what a vaginal ultrasound is, it's not the one on your stomach where they put the little gel stuff. It's where they stick like this long like stick up your vagina, and they go and they touch it with your uterus. And that's where they can see like the baby and see what's going on. She does the ultrasound, she puts the stick in, and she's just really quiet. She's not really saying much at the time. And I kind of get nervous because she's not really saying like what's going on, or you know what's happening. So she's like, how far along are you? And I was like, I have a tracker, this is my first appointment, so it says I'm 8 weeks. And she's like, because it looks like you're measuring about like 5 weeks. She's like, I can't really find a heartbeat. That was pretty hard to take, because you know that's not what I was wanting to hear when I got in there. And you know, I was upset because you know it was something I didn't want to hear. So she ended up making me an appointment for the next week to see if things progress further from that, because she said sometimes it happens where you're just not able to see the baby's heartbeat right away. The baby's just still very small. So they kind of like put me at ease, like told me not to worry too much about it because this is normal, this happens. So after I got done like being upset about it, I was like, okay, like maybe the baby's just really small. I can't really see what's going on. You know, maybe I just need to take that week and let things progress a little further. So mind you, over this next week, throughout my whole time of being pregnant, I had no symptoms whatsoever of miscarriage. So I had no cramping, I had no bleeding, I had nothing. This is when it gets a little tough, because the day comes, it was January 21st, and I go to the doctor's office, and for some reason I just did not have a good feeling in my gut about the appointment. I was getting a lot of anxiety just because based off of my last appointment. I just hadn't been having really good experiences with this whole pregnancy, going to the doctor as far. So I get there, she does the ultrasound. So at this point I should be about 9 weeks. And so we get there, same situation. She does the vaginal ultrasound again, and she's quiet. So at this point, I'm kind of already knowing something's wrong. Not really knowing it was a miscarriage, but just knowing something was up. And she's like, I'm not really seeing any heartbeat. I can't hear it. She puts the audio on. There's nothing. She can't even see a heartbeat because I guess it just didn't develop yet. So so she ends up telling us that the baby stopped progressing at about 6.5 weeks, and I was still, having the symptoms of being pregnant at like 9 weeks, if that makes any sense. Like, I was still moving along with the pregnancy like nothing happened, because the kind of miscarriage I had was a missed miscarriage, where they end up finding it there at the doctor's office. Before you start bleeding, they catch it before all of that stuff starts happening. And that's what happened to me. So she had to get another doctor to come in and get a second opinion, just in case they missed anything. And of course, they ask you if that's okay. And obviously that's okay, because you want to see if there's something, like, hopefully she's just missing something. I'm thinking in my head, like, hopefully she just doesn't know what she's doing. Hopefully. My experience with going to these doctors' offices is a lot of these doctors are just very nonchalant. Like, to me, it feels like you're just like a number. Like, this is just a job at the end of the day. Like, I'm just trying to get you in and out. And I didn't really like that, because, this is something that's very hard to deal with, and you're just very dismissive about it, which is rude, So he comes in, doesn't say hi or anything. He's just like, okay, let's see what we got going on here. He does the ultrasound again, doesn't warn me he's about to do it. He just shoves the dang stick back in there. He moves it around for about a minute or two, and then he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, the baby's not progressing anymore. So at that point, I just kind of was in shock, because, like, this is just nothing that you expect to happen to yourself. And I kind of, like, in a way, I felt embarrassed about it, about having the miscarriage, because I felt like I was just overly excited about having a baby and, like, starting a family with my husband, that I just felt like dumb for even being excited, if that makes sense. And so after he leaves, my actual doctor comes back, and she's like telling us like our options that we have. So the first option was to let it run its course naturally, where you can just wait for your body to start bleeding and passing everything. And then the second choice was to take some pills that will jumpstart the contractions and make everything start to come out faster. And then my third option was to do a DNC. I didn't want to do one of those, because my doctor told me that can kind of mess with your uterus a little bit, because you do scrape it a bit, so it can hinder you from having kids in the future if they don't do it right, and it's just risky. I'll go ahead and tell you guys the option that I chose. This is my option that I chose myself, because I felt like this was best for me. If you are going through this, or if you've never even been through a miscarriage, it's up to that woman who is having the baby to choose what she wants to do. So do not feel like you need to tell somebody, don't do this, do it this way. Let them decide, because it's their fucking body. So I ended up doing the pill option because I work and I'm on my feet all day long. And I feel like if I was to start bleeding on my own at work, I couldn't handle being at work and having that happen. I'd rather be home and know that it's going to happen and get through it before I go back to work and start, doing normal stuff. I just couldn't believe that this was happening, you know? And this is the parts that like make me feel just kind of dumb about everything. I don't even want to say dumb. Like, it just makes me feel like upset about things. It's because I was so excited. I started buying like little things here and there. I just kind of felt stupid for buying it because I was like, you know, I should have waited. Well, regardless, you're going to, you know, feel something. You're going to want to start getting things going. That day, I was just like very like in a fog. Like, it was just almost like everything felt like I was in a dream. Like, it didn't feel real. It just felt really like, everything just felt very weird. The next day, I ended up going and picking up my prescription. Every place does it differently, but I ended up getting 8 pills. I know some women get 4, and I've even heard some people get 2. The reason I got 8 pills is because she ended up giving me 2 dosage of pills, just in case not everything came out, I could do it again. So 1 dosage is 4 pills, and you can either do the pills, you can put them in your cheek and let them dissolve, or you can do it vaginally, where you end up just taking the pills and you stick them up your vagina. And she said that was the best way to do it, so I ended up doing that. And then within the next 2 hours, you'd feel some cramping. And then within the next 3 to 5 hours, you're supposed to start bleeding. And it is like a very heavy period. That's kind of how it feels. If you have like a very hard period that month, like that's how it feels. If you're bleeding as much as where you're filling up a whole pad within 2 hours, you need to go to the hospital. But thank God, everything seemed to work out normal for me. And I ended up bleeding like normal, and it wasn't a fun time. I want to say I bled for about a week and a half, and just like a period, the blood is very bright at first, and then it starts to mellow down at the end and get like to like a brownish color towards the end. So that's what happened to me, and then eventually I just stopped bleeding. I had an appointment about 2 weeks after my miscarriage to see if everything had came out, because if it didn't, I would have to take the second set of pills, and if it didn't work that time, then that's when I would have to get a D&C. But thankfully everything passed the first time, and I didn't really have too many large clots. The only time that I did have a large clot was the next morning. I felt it come out, and it's since you know it's not just a regular period and it's a miscarriage, it just hits you differently. It made me almost pass out. Well, if you are going through this, you want to have somebody around that can take care of you and look out for you while you're going through this. You don't want to be alone, even though it might feel like you just want to be alone and you don't want to be bothered with anybody. Just please have either your husband, your boyfriend, your mom, somebody there, your sister, somebody there to kind of look after you and make sure you're doing all right. I went to my last ultrasound, and it was the same type of ultrasound, a vaginal ultrasound. So she just checked this time to see if everything was out, everything passed. So the next step would be to wait for you to get a period, and then you can go about trying again. There is some women that do, after they stop bleeding, they get back into it and they just start trying from there on out. They don't wait for their period to come. And but she told me that waiting for your first period would be a wise choice, just to see how everything's gonna play out. So after my last ultrasound, knowing everything was out and I didn't have a baby inside of me anymore, it made me just feel very like empty inside. So when you go through these type of things, you're gonna always wonder, like, why did my body fail me? Why did this happen to me? What is the cause and effect of this even happening? And that's how I felt. I was okay while I was actually having the miscarriage, bleeding and going on, but after she told me that everything had passed, that's when I started to get really upset about it and feel very depressed. And I think it's just the fact that, you know, like it's real now, like nothing's there. So it's just it's been kind of tough because, you know, I'm still going through it. This is still a loss. Even though it was early on, this is still a loss. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise, because it doesn't matter if you are 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 18 weeks, and your baby ends up passing, it is still a loss. Some people try to downplay it like it's not that serious because you were so early along, and that to me is just very ignorant. It was hard going back to, you know, regular life after the fact, because at my job there is 2 other pregnant ladies that I work with, and just not to knock their shine or anything, or not to be mean, I just felt sad because seeing them come in with their bellies and their symptoms and everything, like, it just felt weird because I don't have that. I don't get to share that with them. It was hard for a while, you know, like there was times where I was just very upset. I would get upset over the smallest things, like just seeing people talk about how they don't want to have kids, or just hearing people talk about babies and hearing people talk about pregnancy for just a short while would bother me a lot because I didn't have my child anymore. Well, this actually bothered me a lot, and it still bothers me to this day. It actually just makes me kind of mad. It's just, I'm going to give you guys some tips just in case somebody you know, or if this happens in the future with somebody you know is going through a miscarriage or something similar. Please do not try to be a damn doctor and diagnose on how this happened, why it happened, and everything, because I feel like that is beyond rude. It's ignorant, and most of the time you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So don't do it. I've had people tell me, or tell my husband, that, oh, the reason I had the miscarriage was because I was on birth control before. The reason I have the miscarriage is because I'm too stressed. The reason why I have the miscarriage is because of this, that, and the third. You don't assume why somebody's had a miscarriage, like, especially that early on. You don't know. So most of the reasons why it probably happened was because of a chromosome wasn't right. And regardless of what I did or didn't do, it was gonna happen. So trying to tell somebody you had the miscarriage because you're on birth control, or you had it because of this, that is not even what it's about. So if you are that type of person that thinks, oh, let me go ahead and say my little 2 cents because I think it's gonna make them feel better, it probably is not. You're gonna just piss them off. You have to realize when you go through stuff like this is that you need to give yourself time to grieve. Mentally, you need to give yourself time to grieve, and physically, you need to give your body time to, you know, get back to its normal self, because your body is going through something too. Your body's in shock because it feels like, dang, I had something going on and now I don't, so I don't know how to react now. What I like to say, and what somebody has told me, which has helped me, is to be kind to yourself. Don't forget to be kind to yourself, because a lot of times as women we can beat ourselves up over these type of things because we feel like this is all our fault, or we could have did something to prevent this, and we start to have this weird relationship with ourselves where we don't really care for ourselves at the moment because of something like this has happened. And the best thing to do for yourself is be kind to yourself, be kind to your body. Do not go down a downwards spiral where you start to get into bad habits because you're going through something. That is the last thing that you want to do, even though it feels like an easy way out. Trying to self-medicate, trying to self-harm and drink and do all that type of stuff is really just not worth it. And if you feel like you are getting to that point where you are going down a downward spiral, you need to talk to somebody. And sometimes, I know for me, it's hard because in my immediate family, nobody had went through a miscarriage. So it was hard for me because I felt like I didn't really have anybody to talk to that would understand. Not so much that I could talk to my family when I was upset and be okay, but I felt like they really just didn't get it because they'd never been through it. And I can't expect them to know exactly what's wrong with me. So what helped me was talking to people who had been through the same thing or something similar. So I did have some friends who have been through the same thing, and I would talk to them because they were the ones who would understand, you know, how I felt and what I was going through. And that helps me out like a lot because I didn't feel alone anymore. It's more common than you think. It's just a lot of people don't talk about it because either they just don't want to, or they're scared, or they feel like they're going to be judged. If you are still with your partner, whether it be your husband, your boyfriend, or whoever, you know, like, don't forget about them either, because even though they didn't carry the baby, they still are going through it. It's a loss for the whole family. So just make sure you check in with your spouse and make sure they're okay, because at times I would feel like I was being a little bit selfish because I wouldn't always check in with my husband and see how he was doing. So you just want to make sure you check in with them and see if they're okay, because little do you know they could be suffering in silence as well. Please take your time. Nobody can tell you how long you should be grieving or tell you to get over it, because this is a loss. It's a child, it's a life, and it's a loss. It doesn't matter how early this was, it's a life that is lost, and it's something that you have to deal with. And if you sit there and put it on the back burner, eventually it's going to catch up. I know I was kind of all over the place today with this story. The reason I'm not trying to make this video like super like sad and soppy is because, you know, why do we want to keep ourselves depressed and down and out and feeling bad? I feel like I should, you know, try and be as positive as possible, because I do have my days where I'm a mess and I want to, you know, be negative as hell because I feel like nothing's working out for me. But you have to literally force yourself to get out of those feelings. And it is hard. It's not easy, but you have to force yourself to be like, you know what? Hey, you need to get out of this funk and you need to get up and go do something that's going to make you feel better. Don't force yourself to be upset all day long, because it doesn't do no justice for nobody. I just want to give people that are going through something, even if you're not going through anything like how I am, or just something similar, encouragement on this situation, that you will get through it. Give yourself a break and be kind to yourself, because eventually you'll get your rainbow baby. Now, a question that people have been asking me is, are we going to try again? And hell yeah, you know, I want my baby, so I'm going to end up getting my baby eventually. I want a baby by the end of this year, guys. So I'm going to try as soon as I can. But at the same time, I'm not going to, you know, make myself crazy overthinking about when I should try and when I should do it, because at first I was at that point where every day I'd be looking at the calendar, trying to time and track every little thing, trying to see when things would happen and when I could start trying again. But, you know, honestly, the best advice I can give you is just to try and let it happen naturally. If you want to try. Doesn't mean that will happen on the first try or the 5th try, but, you know, just don't give up and know that eventually you'll get to the spot that you want to be at. So I hope this video helped some of you and gave you guys some information on people that go through these type of things. And I thank you guys for coming and watching me, you know, talk about my experience with a miscarriage. And just know that this is something common that happens to a lot of women. So please, everybody, be kind to yourself, love yourself. You have a purpose on this world, and do not beat yourself up over things that are out of your control. And until next time, thank you guys for watching my video. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.